I only asked her out by saying, I only want to date you and I only want you to agree to date me if we're both agreeing that this is going to marriage. If you said that to any girl, you know, I'm only going to date you if we both agree that we're going to marriage. They'd be like, nah, I'm good, bro, you crazy, I don't know you.
Welcome back to the Made to Be Men podcast. Today I've got another guest. We're continuing our series on becoming model men. And I want to talk about relationships and marriage today. So I've got my buddy who is married.
Yes,
Josh.
Indeed.
Welcome to the podcast.
What's good, Christian?
Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it. Thanks for letting me be on here and honoring your space.
Yeah, you're, I'm going to say one of the few and possibly the only person in their 20s I know who's also married.
Yeah, I don't think I know anyone.
So, yeah, that's why I think it'd be really good to get your insight on relationships. It's coming from someone who got married young, and you actually got kids as well.
Yeah,
you got another one on the way.
I know.
So it's mature man.
Well, we're learning. It's all a learning curve.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's exciting. I think it might be a case of I learn from my mistakes.
Of course.
Do as I say and what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, man, I think hopefully it'll bless someone,
For sure.
if not many.
Yeah. So firstly, how we know each other is through church.
Mm-hmm.
You've been coming to this church. How long's it been now? Since
the Christmas nativity that you guys put on.
Okay.
So January is probably when we started coming because of because of church, not the nativity.
Yeah, of course. So it's been about 6 months.
Yeah.
How long have you been a Christian?
You could argue I was raised as a Christian. So all my life, I suppose. I was raised in a Baptist church and then Church of England as well. And in Church of England, it's like you can't really make that decision before 12, kind of.
Right. Yeah.
That's not like a blanket statement. Obviously, there are people who do it before that. So I think I gave my life to Christ about 13. But I didn't know at the time. Someone had to tell me that I did it. Because I did the prayer.
Okay.
And I'd prayed that prayer like so many times, but I didn't feel different. Yeah, so I just kept praying it. And then I did it at a youth. My youth, it was just me. So I was getting like one-to-one mentoring. And I prayed that prayer at the end and they had to tell me,
"You're saved.
Do you realize what you prayed?"
Yeah, right.
And I was like, "Oh, right." I just did that casually, like I'd done it so many times. And then once someone told me and explained what I'd prayed, I then started conducting myself in a manner of such.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of relationships or marriage in particular first, did you want to get married when you were young? Like, did you always have that desire? Were you taught about marriage?
Yeah, I don't know about desire. I always saw it as the end goal, I suppose, or a goal as a man, as a Christian man as well. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is I've got a younger sister, 10 years between us, and I saw the difference between male and female. That's obviously big topic in today's conversation, but she was like, already had that desire as a woman. It was, I want to be married, I want to have kids. Whereas as a young boy, I was just like, crawling in the mud or whatever, kicking a ball around. But the idea of the goal was, definitely, I'd seen it modeled.
Yeah.
I'd seen friends whose parents had been divorced as well, and the hurt that would cause, and sort of seeing my parents, I guess, remain married, in comparison. Obviously, there's a lot of friends whose other parents stayed married as well, and I think you didn't see anything different there, whereas I think 10 years later, 12 years later, it's more common to see broken marriages or single parents or just not nuclear families, I suppose. So yeah. Even in the media as well.
How long have you been married now?
Why did you not tell me you were going to ask me that question? So I could have written it down. We had our 2-year wedding anniversary October, so that's over half. So 2.5.
Okay, so 2.5 years.
Coming up to 3 years. Can't believe I'm saying that, really. That's crazy.
Yeah. And, okay, first I want to talk about dating and the dating process.
Yeah.
Before we get into marriage specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Did you date a lot growing up? Kind of, before you got married, your teenage years, etc.
Yeah. Again, going back to desire, we had a conversation before the podcast just earlier today where I'm quite laid back. I didn't really care for too much. Mm-hmm. And that was probably across all spheres. So I didn't really care.
Right.
But all my friends were dating. So therefore I was like, I need to date, or I wanted to remain. I didn't want to be an oddball. So I was like, I'll try this thing. I liked girls, so it was not hard to get involved with that. But I just didn't think of it as such. And I guess like in a Christian home, you're probably quite sheltered as well with what you watch and what you see. And so that idea of dating wasn't really discussed,
Yeah.
But even when I was thinking about coming on today, I was thinking about those I was dating because other people were dating. It was cool. It was high school or secondary school, being an American term there. But it's not love. It's not what I described it as is cheap gifts and the flesh, but not the flesh as we know it, obviously with children. So it's not as much as that, but it's, they're pretty and
right.
I might get a kiss on the, whatever. And I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
There was no intentionality. There was no desire. All this stuff that we talk about with marriage, we'll throw it in there like vision, calling, and I think there might be a question that you ask, but it comes down to your own, it's about model men, right? What we need to be men. I think especially men, I feel like we mature much later than women,
I've heard that said, yeah. Do you think that's true? Why do you think that is, if it is?
Oh, it's hard to say because my experience is I think I matured quite quick. No, just
same. People who know me, like my parents, whoever, they would say I was mature, young.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I would argue that people raised in church probably are. It doesn't have to just be church for anyone else listening, but in spheres where you're around older people all the time. Church is not filled with kids. Yeah. Always not filled with young people. Like I was, like I said, only the person in my youth. So I was surrounded by silver hair, the older generations. And I was taught to, give a firm handshake, respect your elders. And even I'd mess around with kids at school. When I came into that sphere, it was like, wow, okay, this is the professional sphere. It was almost like practicing commercial. Like the interview type thing. And it was like, can I get you a drink? Can I get you a water? And I think you study the Bible. So you're in discussion groups, you're learning, and you can't just mess around. Yeah. Church as a sermon in itself. Like if you were there for 40 minutes, you have to sit and be quiet. It's not at a restaurant where you can just do what you want and your kids are just like throwing their toys out the high chair and stuff. So I think you learn in those spheres, so any kind of teaching sphere, to be controlled, and also to have deeper conversations. So I remember my friends, even this is sixth form now, I talked to my male friends, and it was like, oh, Josh, you're too deep, man. You're too deep. Like, why? Bro, like, let's just talk about football or something. But what does God say about that? And they'll be like, well, I don't care. And so I used to get on with girls very easily because, well, we know scientifically about if you go look at words, women speak, I don't know, is it 3,000 words or something? Or maybe it's not 3,000, it's probably like, what is it? It's probably a lot more than that, but it's more than us, yeah. But I also did that as well. So it was a lot easier to get on and have friends that were, not girlfriends, friends that were girls, because I got my needs met by having deeper conversation.
Yeah, no, I get you.
So I think that maturity comes there as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So in terms of the dating side of it, so I went on my first date when I was 24, I believe.
Whoa.
which for most, that's probably quite late, I think, these days.
Yeah, these days probably.
Do you remember your first date?
Well, see,
Proper date.
when you put it like that, a formal date is
Yeah.
different to just, like I said, school dating.
Right, yeah.
My first proper date was probably when I was with my first proper girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have been 17, maybe, around that time. Around that time, yeah, because my 18th birthday happened while we were dating, so it was around the 17, 18 mark, and it wasn't. We were already together, so you talk about dating someone to know whether you should be with them. I've never been on a date like that. Not really, not a formal date until maybe my wife.
Yeah. Okay. So did you dated quite a bit after that?
After that encounter,
yeah. After that
first relationship, no.
Oh, okay.
I was hurt. I was really hurt.
Oh,
yeah.
Was that a long relationship or?
It felt like it. I don't even think it was 2 years. I think it was 18 months.
Okay, so you didn't date that much after the first one?
No, I was hurt. And then I went to uni.
Right.
So I just had a break. I just said, I just want to be me. I want to focus on myself. Me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
That I hadn't learned about singleness, but it was basically singleness.
Got you.
That season of singleness. Anyone who's listened to teachings on that.
Yeah.
That kind of vibe.
Do you think Christian men should date casually? You know, some people have a view of, you know, it's okay to just take a different girl out, get to know them, you know, nothing serious at first. It's more kind of a casual thing at first.
Yeah.
Versus other people are more like, no, you need to have that intention from day one. You need to be serious about them. You need to, you know, kind of take a direct approach that I'm working towards marriage, and that's the mindset you should go into with it. How would you view it?
Yeah, it's tough, that question, because there's so many different elements to that. Initially, I'd say we shouldn't date casually, but at the same time, I don't think dating is spoken about or managed in the church. To talk about Christian men, made to be men, we don't almost create an atmosphere for dating in the church.
Oh, interesting.
You know, so let's say there was a girl in the church. Let's say it's 10 and 10, 10 men, 10 women, and everyone's single. They all get to know each other, blah, blah. You start dating one person, doesn't work out. Most people wouldn't then go and say, oh, date the other person in the church. They'd probably just leave and be like, oh, I can't be here now. Like, I'm hurt, or it's embarrassing, or people know that I dated that girl and now I can't date this girl because then it's just going to be...
Might think you're a player.
Yeah. So you got to start fresh. So that's the thing, but it shouldn't be like that. I think my in-laws taught me about the term courting, and I think I like that idea because if it seems like an old term, like courting, like what we're in the Victorian time, but it's ideal because that and a question of can you date casually, as in can I go on a date on this Friday with this girl, and then in 2 weeks go on another date with this girl, and then casually date both.
I've known people who had dates lined up in advance.
Yeah.
As in, Monday I've got this girl, and then they've already got Friday booked with someone else.
That's rough. That's right. I see why people do that. I see why. But no, that's not cool, man. That's not cool. Because then you lose the intentionality as well. Yeah. You know, I get it. Because it's like, play the fields, needs to, you know, because that day might be rubbish. So then I want to move on to the next one. But the idea of courting, you don't court multiple people. I think casually dating is fine, but only do one person. So date them and do it intentionally, because if you're dating them casually still, you can do it casually, but you've got other people on the radar. You can't be intentional because you're just weighing up. You might be comparing. Oh, she eats with her mouth open. Oh, that girl, I don't know, doesn't wear the right clothes or whatever it is, you know, in terms of your preference. So you're comparing two people while getting to know them. So for me, it's casual is fine. Keeping it casual is great. because there's no pressure, there's no label, which I think labels of, oh, we're dating or we're moving towards something can, especially if you haven't built a foundation of purpose, vision, being on the same page, it can make it quite rocky, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree with that.
Having labels.
I think having a label can, especially if you don't know each other. If you're not friends, you weren't friends. This is new people. Right. You know, I think you have to do it casually, but you have to do it on an intentional basis.
Yeah. Okay, I would agree. I think for me, it should always be done with intention. But having intention doesn't mean, oh, straight away we have to get married. That's it. Like, we know. It's like, no, get to know them. But the intention is, I'm taking you seriously. I'm getting to know you.
Yes.
And the end point is marriage. Like, we're not just in a suspended state. Like, some people treat dating like it's just this suspended state of, we don't know where we're going. We just see how it goes. You
need a deadline.
Float along.
You need a dedeadline of such, a mental deadline.
It should be progressing.
Yes.
Is the point.
Yeah,
I think.
Agree.
And I think you should have that intention. In terms of the labels point, I think
this is at the beginning I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not saying you need a label. I mean, for me, even, it's weird. Like, what do you call, like, girlfriend, boyfriend sounds childish, you know?
It does,
well,
yeah.
To me, it kind of does.
I'm
That's
dating
why
this
I
girl.
wouldn't really know what to call them in that early stage. But I think we should make clear our intention quite early.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I just think the reason you take labels off it at the beginning is because of how much pressure the church puts on. Oh, you two are together. Oh, well, are you getting married? Oh, marriage counselling. And everyone's like, ooh, I need to just figure out. I don't even know if he likes what I like. You know, he might be a crazy guy. You know, spends his whole weekend golfing and never sees me. You know, it could be something like that. But in saying that, my experience there was with Danelle. I'd met her in the end of my final year. Call it love at first sight. It was at a young adults group. We saw each other, and the way I describe it is like, it was like everyone was in the dark and she had the spotlight on her, but I'd never seen her before.
Danelle being your wife, by the way.
Yes, Danelle's my wife, not just some crazy, some girl on the side. Yeah, my wife. So I didn't, obviously, we'd never spoken before. She's like her first time, and that's a whole story in itself. So we met once. I think I barely said hi. I was so nervous, and then I went home for a period of time for summer, so we didn't see each other, and I got into just nonsense, like fear, or identity crisis, I suppose. So, just for the listeners, I won't go into the whole testimony, but basically drinking, drugs, and sexual relationship, or not relationships, just sex, casual. And I'd never done any of those previous, basically. So that was an intense period of 3-4 months of just loss of identity. Didn't know what was going on. Came back to uni September time. I had assessed that I was going to stop all of this. Didn't quite happen as such. Carried on. But then Danelle was there, and obviously she was like, "Oh, where'd this Josh guy go?" Because she was thinking the same, by the way. I had a fresh trim the first time she saw me as well, so that helped. But yeah, so then she basically came and reintroduced herself to me after a long period of time. We met once. I didn't even know if she was the same person. And something took over me. The first thing I ever said to her was, "I'm on drugs and I'm sleeping around." And the reason I was saying that was because I was putting boundaries for her.
That's one way to ask a girl out.
Yeah, this is where I'm at. I was transparent. She knew what she was getting into. But she actually, from that, I think she knew I was pushing her away. But she'd also come from a life experience of growing up in the church, similar, but doing what I did, less intense over a longer period of time. So a bit of rebellion, but living in the world, doing all that stuff. So she was able to accept that, show grace, and say, "Been there." So me saying that wasn't a shock. Whereas if I said that to anyone that I grew up with, it would have been like, "Whoa, religion, get religion in there. This guy condemn," And she was like, "Oh, you should come around for dinner." What? You should come meet my family. I just told you my situation. So straight away, that was like a big sign of.
Do you think she knew straight away that she wanted to be with you, like wanted a relationship?
At the time, I didn't, but it came out after she'd been told, or she, believed the Holy Spirit had told her that I was her husband.
Is that why she invited you around?
Probably, because it was a bit crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more crazy from her point of view.
Yeah, I was thinking,
you know.
You barely know the guy, like you met him twice.
Yeah.
And he's just told you he's living this wild life at the
Yeah,
moment. Why would you invite him round?
No, that's exactly it.
It has to be like...
Yeah, I mean, I was quite well known in this church in terms of... sounds like I'm a celebrity. That's not true. I was serving a lot and I was involved a lot. So the people she was hanging around with would have known me, and probably you could put a picture of who I was in that. And no one else knew I was in that situation either. She was the first person I told that I was living this double life of Christian at church and craziness outside of church, which was the identity thing as well. And then I basically spent from September to December dating casually, we just spoke about. And this wasn't right, by the way, because I was trying to basically tie up loose ends in my crazy life, trying to get out of different situations while keeping her at bay. I kept saying, "Oh, we're just friends," which was turning her upside down, by the way, because the way we were talking and being around each other was like we were dating. And but I thought I was protecting her, keeping her at arm's reach, saying, "We're just friends, don't get too involved with me," because I still have a load of mess that I'm trying to clear up. And then just put it into perspective, hopefully no one is in this situation and in that mess. You want to do as I say, not as I do. But it got to December and I had basically tied everything up. And then January, it was like, right, God, is she the one? Or I was praying this beforehand. So much so that I was like crying about it. And I was like, God, you're not telling me anything. So I was praying about it. And there was just one night I was like, in my heart, I was saying, this is the last, I'm not talking about this again. I need to know. And I think God obviously knew that, but I didn't say that to him saying this is the last time. I didn't challenge him like that. But at that moment, it was like a weighted quilt is the best way to describe it, of peace. And I never felt that before. I never had these experiences. I was brought up quite religious and stuff. So this kind of stuff I didn't really experience. And just like weighted peace. It's like someone like laid a blanket on me. And for me, that was even when we had troubles at the start of our relationship, I always went back to that moment. And obviously we're married now, so you know that I made that decision of, nah, that's the girl, I'm marrying her. And I moved forward intentionally. So now we're talking about intentionality. So it's quite a short period of time from September. Well, obviously we met maybe in the March at the very beginning of that year, but realistically we introduced September. We started dating in the February. But I only asked her out by saying, I only want to date you and I only want you to agree to date me if we're both agreeing that this is going to marriage. If you said that to any girl, I'm only going to date you if we both agree that we're going to marriage. They'd be like, nah, I'm good, bro. You crazy. I don't know you. I didn't say to her that we couldn't break up if we both were like, this is just red flags all over the place. But I didn't want to date to figure out if we should get married. I was dating her to get married. I already knew because I'd prayed about it. I had peace about her without knowing her, and she'd been told the same. So we made that sort of commitment.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So we were both on the same page. It wasn't one person saying marriage and the other person saying, let me figure it out.
Because I think the way a lot of people approach it is, I will date someone, see how it goes, and then maybe I'll decide if I want to marry them. Whereas your approach seems to be, I've prayed about it, I've spent time with God, I'm deciding that I want to get married, and then I'm working towards that with this person now.
Yes, that's much better. Yeah. If I phrase it like that, we could have cut the last half an hour out.
That's really good. Yeah, so I think that intentionality is important. So one thing you mentioned earlier about how you were acting like you were something, but then saying you're just friends.
Yes.
I think that's quite a common thing that people do, isn't it?
I also think it's common from a guy's perspective too.
Particularly a guy's perspective.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And I was about to say, like, we really shouldn't do that.
No, it's
like,
bad.
Yeah, like, especially as the guy, you know, the one who's supposed to lead, initiate, to pursue, if you like. You should be decisive from day one and not give mixed signals.
Yeah,
I believe.
absolutely.
Like, that's the way we should be. And so if you're not sure about someone, leave them alone. Like, don't spend time with them acting like you might be something and you're not sure, or if you're not ready, leave them alone.
Yeah.
Once you're in that place where, okay, yeah, I'm serious about this, I know I'm working towards marriage and this is the person I want to get to know to progress towards that, then boom, do it. Tell them.
Yeah.
Make it clear. And then work towards it. I think that's the approach we should take.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It goes back to your casual dating thing. You can't do that with multiple people.
Exactly.
You know, it's because it is, you're playing everyone. Even if you don't think you're a player, I'm not playing these people, you know. You will end up doing that because you're having to keep boundaries on all of these people and you can't fully intentionally commit to grow with that one person. It's not saying if you pick that one person to grow, to keep it casual still. You can still get out.
Yeah.
You know, because you can't ignore red flags just because you said, oh, we're working to marriage. You still need that get out clause. You shouldn't be marrying the wrong person. But like you say, growing together, and the girl needs to be on the same vibe, on the same level as well. But like you said, I think it not to disrespect any guys out there that are in that position, but it is growing from a child or a boy. It's boy to manhood in terms of the world that we're in is women power and stuff. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with strong women, by the way. I married one, you know, and that was something that I was attracted to, her independence.
Right.
But at the same time, as men, we need to be higher than that. We shouldn't be succumbing saying, oh, where do you I'm a sucker for saying, where do you want to go? You know, where do you want to go eat? But the girl just wants to be told sometimes.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy. I'm Andrew Tate now, you know, in terms of saying we're going to eat here. But they find that romantic.
Decisiveness is attractive.
Decisiveness, you know, and I think I'm still growing in that. What do you want to eat? Oh, I don't care, you know? And
even with, I'm sure you've probably had this where like, oh, how do you think this looks? Which one should I wear?
Yeah. That's always a trick question.
See, now when my wife asks me, I'm going to pick one. I'm going to tell her, I think this one because of this, this, and this. And so I think,
she can't argue with that as well.
Yeah,
so if you say it with that authority, decisiveness, they can't say, oh, right, okay.
And I know sometimes as well, I do have the temptation to just be like, oh, whichever one you feel like. And, you know, I get that sometimes you don't really want to, you just want to say, pick whatever you want to wear.
Yeah.
I think women do like that, where you can be decisive and say, I think this one. Yeah.
Each woman's different, but you know, if a woman listens to this and says, "Well, I don't want to be told what to do," in some area, she will want to be told what to do. In terms of anything, it could be anything. You know, she might say, "Well, you're not telling me where to live. You're not telling me what job I can do, or whatever it is." But there will be a point where she wants a man who's decisive in terms of. I've got two examples that just came to mind. Maybe you're in a situation where you're out partying, you know, you're in that sphere. You want your man to be decisive in making sure you're looked after. I can take care of myself. Yeah, you can. But if there's some guy, you know, that's being disrespectful, you want a guy that's going to be like, babe, we're leaving. I'm not keeping you in this sphere.
Yeah.
We need to go. Or the other one, which is what Danelle does to me, by the way, because she wears the trousers. No, I'm joking. Well, she does sometimes. But is when my chips are cold. We had McDonald's earlier. Yeah. When my chips are cold at McDonald's, I will eat cold chips. But Danelle will not let me eat cold chips. She'll take them back. That should be me, by the way.
Okay.
I should be the one taking them back.
If they come cold.
If they come cold, I will just say, thank you very much. These are lovely. And she'll say, nah, this isn't right.
Right. Yeah.
But we should be like that in all sphere as a man. I know it's a bad example maybe, but we should be like that. This isn't good enough for my wife. This isn't good enough for my girl.
Yeah, I agree.
And that decisiveness. And I think whether women will argue, I like this, I don't want a man to tell me what to do. That idea of the man's choosing what's best for us I don't think anyone can argue with that.
Yeah. I think the last thing they want is someone with no backbone.
Backbone, yeah.
Like a pushover, like, you know, they just don't stand for anything.
Yeah.
Especially on behalf of the woman or for
Absolutely.
their wife. It's
Yeah.
like you need to be able to. It's that the protector nature of a man.
Yeah.
You need to be able to stand for your wife.
Yeah. In all aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Side note, which this is a common question that gets put out there. Like, should a guy pay for the first date? For me, it's a yes, no question. But what do you think?
I think the first 10 dates I didn't pay. I was a poor student.
Okay.
I didn't have any money.
Okay.
She was full-time working.
Okay.
She treated me. She's also older than me.
Okay, fair.
So, yes and no.
Okay, if you had the money,
Yeah,
would you?
Always.
For me, it's like,
Because I would want to, not because I have to.
yeah. For me, okay, this might be a bit different to you, but I wouldn't go on a date with a girl unless I was ready and able to pay. Like, and I would pay.
Yeah, you put me in the position there. I just told you that I did that.
I mean, look, there's always exceptions to things where God can arrange things where it works out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's always exceptions. But for me, it's like, I need to, the way I begin this relationship needs to be the way, like, I'm setting the tone for
Yes.
it, you know?
Yeah.
And if I want to be the leader, I want to start off on that foot.
Yeah.
And being the kind of the provider, the leader sort of thing. And I'm not saying it's wrong for a woman to pay for a date.
No, but I get what you're
wrong
saying.
with that. It's just that for me as the man, I just have that in me to want to do that.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. I think, and you said your first date was 24, right?
Yeah.
I was married for 2 years.
Yeah.
by that point, and that's not to say it's better or worse, but like you say, I think if I was where I am now, so I'm 25, but I've learned a lot since 24, I would probably be in the same boat because I'd had teaching, I'd been mentored, I'd had stewardship, you know, with what a man should be, what a man should do, X, Y, Z. And I would agree. I think, I mean, it's almost like, look at African culture as well, just as an example. You have to get, you see the money or the cow situation, right? Where the people think it's a case of you're buying the woman. People take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not property. I shouldn't be bought. It's not. I think it's like what you've just said. I'm not going to date you or take you out on a date until I'm willing and able. So that's two, willing and able.
Yeah.
Because you could have been willing for a long time. You know, it goes back to, you know, what Jesus did for the church, and, you know, a man should be that for a woman. He gave everything up.
Yeah.
Finances, emotion, his life. You know, sometimes we just focus on, oh, Jesus just died for the church. Well, no, he didn't. He gave everything. He didn't just work, 9 to 5, whatever. He gave everything up for the church. And I would agree with you. You know, my situation, again, do as I say, not what I do. But as saying that, my experience is different, in that way. But God came through.
Yeah.
You know, we're now in a position where I was at university with no money, but I managed to buy an engagement ring, managed to put money forward to pay for a wedding. You know, Danelle did a lot more saving than me, and I'm not saying it was 50-50 for the wedding. We got married in COVID. And then after COVID, the job I work for now found my CV on the abyss of the internet during COVID, when it was like, oh, no one's going to get a job. Oh, here's a remote work from home job, blah, 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 and here's a nice cushy salary to start your life with.
Awesome.
You know, yeah. So it's all those. So God will come through, like you say, but the ideal way would definitely be a way of the man starting on the right foot.
Yeah. Going back to what we said about decisiveness, this is the thing I forgot, which I wanted to say. So I made a video. One of the last videos I put out was on seeking God. And I was just thinking about how to seek God, you have to be decisive about it. Meaning like, you know that quite well-known statement that Joshua makes. He says, choose this day whom you will serve.
Yeah.
As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a decisive, this is what we're doing.
Yes.
It's not, we'll see how it goes. We'll see where life takes us. It's not, we're floating around allowing, life to take us in whatever direction it wants. It's, we've made a decision. This is the direction we're going. That's it. Faith is decisive.
Absolutely.
And I think, that's the approach we should take to everything.